this there for reference. Can everybody hear me?
Recording is on.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Not anything new here, except I just wanted to remind everybody we have 484 days until the November 2024 general election, and we have much at stake in this election, and a critical issue at stake if the Ross v. Anyway, that lawsuit that happened last August holds. Now, it's not certain that it will. I've not heard anything. Brian Sells may have been in touch with Jared or maybe Zach, to give us some news, but I haven't heard anything. So I'm assuming that we have a problem, and that is we could lose our ballot access in November 2024, or statewide ballot access. I posted the link to a description of the situation. Most of you should be aware of this. It's the same link, so no reason to go to check it out if you've already been there. For those of you who are new to the XCOM, please, if you haven't already, check out that link. It is vital that we all understand this situation and act on it. So I have a couple of ideas for plans to address this issue. I'll let y'all know as soon as they become more concrete, but nothing noteworthy at this moment. And that's all I have. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions? All right. If not, we will move on to the policy manual and committee SOPs, the motion that was postponed until this meeting.
I will start screen sharing. Everyone see it? All right, so this is the, exact same policy manual updates and committee standard operating procedures that were moved by me and created by me and Nick at the last meeting, and that got tabled. So it has been posted up on the base camp since then. So hopefully everybody has had time to review it to their satisfaction. So I will move that we adopt these revisions to the policy manual and the committee SOPs that were posted.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we adopt the policy manual as presented to us in Basecamp and on the screen here. Is there any debate? And I am giving lots of time because I do expect debate on it. But hearing none, can we put this to a vote? I think I'm going to put this to a vote.
Jared, as chair, if you're not hearing anybody wanting to debate, you can just say debate is closed and move to a vote.
Yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to move to a vote. So if everyone is ready for the question, those who are in favor of this policy manual update, please indicate so by raising your hand. Right.
I'm seeing 11 votes in favor.
Okay, that's 11 votes in favor. Everybody can lower those hands. We have one hand still up.
Alex, your hand. Oh, there you go.
And still one. Okay. All right. Those opposed.
I'm seeing one.
I see one as well. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Oh, two. Okay. Anyone else that did not get counted? Okay. Is it back on my screen? Is everybody seeing my screen?
I just popped in.
Hey, Danny.
We do see your screen.
Okay, perfect. We will now move on to new business and motions. Can I ask for clarification from Mr. Placey and Mr. Allen? The policy manual that did include the piece with the voting, right?
No, that's separate.
That's separate. Okay.
That was new.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification, and that's in here. Yeah, number 4. Got it. All right. There is a motion coming from Mr. Allen. Would you like to speak to that and make that motion?
Sure, I'll make the motion first. I move to approve the Libertarian Party of Georgia signing the letter of support for a referendum campaign to stop Cop City.
Okay. And for clarification, the motion or the letter was in Basecamp, and that is the one that everybody has been sending in signatures for, correct?
No, that's the next item. This
Okay.
is, so I'll just give the story. Basically, I received a request from the Stop Cop City campaign, the coalition, for us to sign on to this letter. And I felt it was appropriate for XCOM to have say on whether we signed it or not. So
Okay.
we certainly have already said that we support the referendum campaign in general, but we have not stated whether we support this letter in particular.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Is there a second for that?
Second.
All right. It has been moved and seconded that we approve the Libertarian Party of Georgia signing the letter of support for the referendum campaign to stop Cop City. The letter was posted in Basecamp, correct?
Yes.
I believe I saw it in there, yes. And it has been presented on the screen. Is there any debate? Okay, hearing none, we will move to a vote on this one as well. Those in favor of the Libertarian Party of Georgia signing this letter of support that is signed by others, other organizations as well, please raise your hands. All right, I'm seeing 16 in favor.
As am I.
You can lower those hands. All right, those opposed. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. The Libertarian Party of Georgia will be signing the letter of support for the referendum campaign to stop Cop City. All right, moving on to the next order of business. There is a resolution to endorse the open letter on occupational license reform. So if Mr. Varnell and Mr. Allen would like to present their motion.
Okay. Zach, do you want me to present it?
Yeah, I don't have a motion ready, so you can go ahead if you have something.
Yeah, it's quick. I move the adoption of the following resolution. Resolved that the Executive Committee of the Libertarian Party of Georgia endorses the open letter on occupational license reform.
Yep. So for anybody who's not aware yet, I wrote this letter here that kind of lays out 15 different industries or jobs that are ripe for, occupational licensing reform, or, even better, just getting rid of it. Just narrowed it down to what I thought were the 15 most either impactful or ridiculous. And a bunch of you have already signed it. I think we're lacking maybe 4 or 5 signatures, but so check that out if you haven't signed yet, and just send me a signature file. It can even be, there's a link in the Basecamp for if you don't have one, an easy way to create one. And I just think it'll be cool to, send this to the committee with our kind of opinions on it, and all of us signed on. So,
All right. Do we have a second for that? I imagine Zach.
yeah,
A second.
There we go.
there we go.
Okay. We have a lot of signatures on here. So I'm going to say, without objection, this resolution to endorse the open letter will pass, and we will send this on. If you haven't sent in a signature, Mr. Varnell has provided several places where you can get a signature, or you can write it out, scan it in, clear out all the nastiness on it, and send it to him. And your names are up on the screen for everyone to see, so we're calling you out right now. And also, you can not do it or do it, but it does look good if all of us sign it unanimously.
Yeah. And hopefully we can make this a thing, because I think there's another one now on certificate of need. So that'll be a good one to put our position down and mail it to them.
Yes.
Try something.
That's happening Thursday, right?
I don't know.
At least the first committee. Anyway, Mr. Allen, hand is up.
Yeah, I was just going to say there are 2 committees on certificate of need law reform, and there's this one committee on occupational licensing reform.
Got it. It's good information to have. Yeah, and I think that one, I do think.
It's in the Appendix M for the agenda. Under notes.
Sorry. The certificate of need, 7/8 formed July 13th, coming up this Thursday. Yeah, it's on the legis.ga.gov website too. There's like a flag on it. It's like in front of everybody for everyone to see. So I'm sure we will hear about that as we go forward. And if anyone's interested, it will be live streamed as well. And maybe we can try and get there. Okay. Mr. Brumbelow, are you on the call? I see you.
I am.
There we go. We have a date and location of the 2024 convention that is coming before the body, and he would like to present that to us as an option. Do you need me to share my screen?
If you can, I have very little bandwidth, so, or I guess Zane's got it.
Thank you, sir. Look at that. The floor is yours.
We've looked at approximately, as I stated here, 90 locations within 25 miles of Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, looking to find a location that fits our budget and our size requirements. The same one that, quite frankly, I thought was pretty close to being ideal a month ago, still seems to be the only one that's really suitable for the size convention that we're having, and inside of our budget, while being able to maintain a good convention. The facility will cost us approximately $4,000 to rent for the 3 days. And I've got a number of pictures here if Zane can go through and kind of scroll through them. So the first is just the parking, so that you can get an idea of what the lot looks like from the front of the building going back and the front as well. There's sufficient parking for about 100 vehicles in the front. There's also rear parking if it happens to be needed. If we can go ahead and scroll down some, though. This next is a rather large barbecue pit, which we're looking at potentially doing a hog roast on. And the presidential candidates have already been talked to about the fact that they would be, in fact, be sponsoring this themselves, and then serving our delegates. But if we can go ahead and continue scrolling down, I've got, this is the back facility. It's a very large open lot with the lake back in behind it. We've got at least, we've got 2 good meeting facilities, one of which can sit 175 people, and the other which can fit about 120 people at any given time. Obviously, the 175 is larger than what we need, but we can use some curtains to go through and shrink that down some. Those are photos of those. And as we come down, we've also got a vendor exhibit room. This is the area that's immediately out front and would be where we would hold our academic posters and is part of our entranceway. The next picture down is a multimedia cantina with a cash bar. That $4,000 includes access to the cash bar, and it includes the bartender, and we would get pricing based on the same prices they charge members of the VFW there. So given that just about every other place that we talked to wanted us to go through and have a police officer on duty at about $45 an hour, plus a bartender, plus a license, no pun intended with the occupational license that was just discussed, but to go through and do all that, that's included in the price, in the $4,000 that we would be paying for this facility. And then as we should be at least one more. Is there another picture below that?
Does not appear to be another picture.
Okay, it may have gotten cropped up and in. There's one other room that would be a dedicated vendor room. It's approximately 25 feet by 40 feet, and would give us a dedicated space that would allow vendors to be able to set up and have a secure location, and be able to talk to people without interrupting either of the tracks or the multimedia room, or the foyer as well. And then we've got cooking access and access to, we're probably going to have a food truck that'll be there during the business meeting to serve lunch, and we would be likely catering something with tickets on Friday night and Saturday evening immediately after the debate. They want a $500 deposit when we go through and actually sign the formal agreement to go in, and then the remainder of it would be payable as per contract. I'll go through and get a copy of the contract. Does anybody have any questions on this particular facility?
That looks really cool, Robert. Did you say the cop was required but included, or how did that work out?
At this location, no cop is required. It's a private facility that has licensure to run their cantina. Just about every other place other than VFWs and American Foreign Legion. So all the universities we talked to, all the private complexes that we talked to, all wanted to have a police officer on union overtime pay to come in and sit there and watch us not get rowdy.
Great.
But we don't have to, we don't have to worry about that at this location. And again, the bartender is included in that price. So it'll be a cash bar. We technically will not be able to bring in our own alcohol to the facility, though we are looking at a way of possibly having the cantina buy some alcohol from some of our resident brewers to be able to keep in there and then sell back so that we can have our own people represented. That's something we've got to work out at a local level, apparently.
That's awesome. Thank you.
The ideal proposed date would put us in what we think is going to be almost directly between Florida and California's convention dates. It looks like Florida is probably going to be the week immediately before us, and it looks like California is going to be President's Day, which would be mid-February, though they may wind up being the first week of February. We won't know officially until tomorrow.
That was California, you said?
Yes, California.
Got it. Just for reference, can you give us the address of that? And Mr. Placey, if you wouldn't mind, if you can, popping that up on Google Maps, just so we can see where it is.
You're a little quiet, Jared.
I am sorry. That is my fault. Can y'all?
I am pulling it up now.
All right, it is. The address is 1432 VFW Drive, Southwest in Conyers.
There it is.
Could you repeat that?
1432 Victor Foxtrot Whiskey Drive, Southwest in Conyers.
We do have a shout out here from Mr. McKinney. Just want to say thank you to Robert and team for working so hard and quickly on planning our convention. I think we can all agree on that. This has been a fantastic job. Perfect. Just for reference, for everybody, if you don't know where Conyers is, just east of Atlanta. Seems like a good spot.
It is quite literally 23 miles from the airport.
Look at that. Okay. So with all that being said, we have a budget of $4,000 and a location and a date, correct, being proposed?
That's correct.
Would someone like to make a motion for Mr. Brumblow's offer?
I move that we accept that.
A second.
Second. Yep.
We have a motion and a second to have our convention at the VFW in Conyers, Post 5290, for $4,000 on the day of January 26th through 28th.
Correct.
January 26th through 28th. Is there any debate?
All right, I have the text of the motion on the screen, although it might not be exactly what Jared said because I wrote it before he started talking.
That is okay.
So the motion that I have here, Jack, if this would be acceptable to you, is that the Libertarian Party of Georgia hold its 2024 convention at the VFW 5290 in Conyers, Georgia, from January 26th to 28th, 2024, with a budget of $4,000.
I'm assuming that's the budget for the space.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. if I may, the budget of $4,000 doesn't necessarily have really a pertinence. The budget that we have for convention is $6,000. So that might be something that we need to discuss later on once we get a full budget for the convention. But if you are okay, we can skip the $4,000 piece and let our convention chair and committee handle the budget for us and request more money if they need it. Since we've talked about that before as a kind of an empowerment to our committee chairs.
You're talking to me. I'm in agreement with that.
Okay, cool. So I think that's what our motion would be to fit in with our policies and procedures as they stand. And our policy manual has us approving a venue and a date, if I understand correctly. So this is our motion that the Libertarian Party of Georgia hold its 2024 convention at the VFW 5290 in Conyers, Georgia from January 26th to 28th, 2024. Is there any debate?
I have a question,
Yes, sir.
and it relates to the dates and conflicts with California, I suppose. I mean, my assumption is it'd be important to get the leading presidential candidates at our convention. And I'm asking if we've got our antenna up and are prepared to adjust so that we get the best possible event.
Mr. Rumbelow, would you like to speak to that?
In fact, we dealt with that this very afternoon. I happened to be on the telephone with Mike Termott when he got a text message saying that there was a potential overlap with Florida and California. I reached out to California. Jared reached out to Florida. And while we cannot speak to their official positions because they won't formally be known until their own XCOM meetings, and I guess Florida's meeting right now, California will be in a few hours. But it appears as though Florida will be meeting the week before, and California will either be meeting the week immediately following ours or 2 weeks following that.
Another question, please. Is the space available any alternative dates if we were obliged to change?
We can shift earlier in January. They're hesitant just because of some of their own activities that are going on in February to extend beyond that. But we could adjust earlier, though we have personnel conflict inside of our own party, which is kind of why we move the meeting to the date that we've got. Though it turns out, again, if it's the week immediately following Florida's, which we think it is, that will be very good for our candidates because they'll be able to campaign in the area and transition between the two before heading out to California in a couple of weeks after. Does that answer your question, or did you have?
Yes, sir. No, that's fine. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Perfect. Mr. Allen, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that according to our policy manual, as we just updated it, executive committee is only required to approve the site. We don't have to approve the date. We can leave that up to the committee if we so choose.
Look at that. So with that being said, and that clarification being brought forward, we can leave this motion as is, or somebody can move to amend. Not hearing that, is there any further debate? Hearing none, we will take this to a vote. Those in favor of holding our 2024 convention at the VFW 5290 in Conyers from January 26th to 28th, 2024, please raise your hands. All right, I see 17 in favor.
Yep.
You can lower those hands for me. And those opposed. All right, the ayes have it. The motion carries. We will have our 2024 convention at the VFW 5290 in Conyers, Georgia from January 26th to the 28th of 2024, barring that there are no other unforeseen circumstances. We have our, and that is awesome. So thanks everybody for the approval of that, and thank you, Mr. Rumbelow, for doing that for us. Moving
Thank
on
you,
to the next.
folks. I'm gonna bow out now unless y'all get back to your regular scheduled business.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Is my mic doing better now? I know you said I was quiet earlier.
It's still a little muffled, but we can hear you.
Okay, I might try a different mic. So, second. Oh, looks like everything's having trouble, so I will just speak a little bit louder. All right. Our next order of business is the voting procedure updates. These were also posted in Basecamp. Mr. Placey, if you could put that on the screen for us, if you've got it.
It is on the way. Yeah, so this is something that Brian and I were both working on. So Brian, if you want to talk about the first part, and then I'll talk about the second part.
Tell you what, let's make a motion.
Oh, right. So
And then we'll,
I will move that we make the amendment to the policy manual that is currently shown on the screen. And that was posted to Basecamp a few days ago.
Second.
it has been moved and seconded that we amend the policy manual with the voting procedures that are shown on the screen to update section 2.2.6 and 2.2.7 according to the new numbering update, correct?
Yes.
All right. Is there any debate? Obviously, we'd like for you guys to speak to that. So Mr. Placey, if you will.
So Brian, if you'd like to talk about 2.2.6.
Sure. Yeah. So we are an elected body that is responsible to the membership, and as such, our votes on substantive matters should be recorded for transparency. And this new voting procedure will enable a minority vote to accomplish that, whereas under just the default rules of order, it would require a majority, which according to Robert's rules is not a best practice. So adopting this will bring us in line with what we should be doing.
Thank you. And then for a slight change to the way that electronic mail ballots work, under the existing policy manual, there's a lot of confusion because it would appear that the policy manual is attempting to have a quorum of 2/3 of the committee for any electronic ballot to be binding. Although quorums are not allowed to be in the policy manual, they'd have to be in the bylaws. And since they're not in the bylaws, and since the bylaws doesn't allow for the policy manual to have a quorum, really the only thing that it could be is an alternate voting threshold, essentially where it's not that the vote isn't binding, but that it doesn't pass unless it gets at least as many yes votes as a majority of 2/3 of the entire committee. And we don't think that that's really what was intended by this. So I added a part, rephrased the part of the electronic ballot section to clarify that it is an alternate threshold and not a quorum, but bring that threshold in line with the quorum requirement in the bylaws, which is 40% of the executive committee. So under this rule, an e-ballot would be binding no matter how many people voted on it, but no measure could pass unless it got at least as many yes votes as a majority of 40% of the entire committee, in addition to obviously getting more yes votes than no votes. So I know that that's kind of nuanced and complicated, but hopefully I explained that well enough.
Perfect. So, if you could clarify for me, well, okay, we'll let Mr. McKinney speak first.
Zane, can you tell me how many people would have to vote affirmatively for someone to pass? If it's 40% of 2/3, tell me again how many exactly yes votes do you need?
So the minimum would be 5 because 40% of 20 is 9.2, and a majority of that would be 5.
Yeah, I'm not sure that having 5 affirmative votes is going to be good enough to pass any measure.
Can I motion to amend the motion?
You may.
I would move to amend the motion to have 70% of the votes collected before we can come to a decision on whether or not there's a vote pass.
All right. It has been moved and seconded that the current motion be amended to show a majority of 70% of the full existing executive committee.
Amber, sorry, Miss Howell, can I clarify something about your amendment?
Sure.
So what I have on the screen is just replacing 40% with 70%. Is that what you intended, or did you intend to make a broader revision of this section where at least 70% of the executive committee must vote for before any result on the e-ballot could be announced?
There's some breaking up. So I am in the Walmart parking lot. I'm still at work. But I think 5 votes of the XCOM is way too low. Like 40% is like 9-10 people. It's very low. So if 70% of the XCOM vote, then that's a bigger participation. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, would it be in order for me to continue to respond?
Yes, it would be.
Just to further clarify, the way that we're now replacing the 40% with 70% would not necessarily require 70% of the committee to vote. All it would do is require that the measure get at least as many yes votes as a majority of 70%. So that would be 23 times 70%. So that would mean that any measure would need at least 9 yes votes in order to pass.
Yeah.
It would not require at least 70% of all of the committee members to actually vote.
So how would I phrase it to require 70% of the committee to vote?
So that would not be in order to do because that would be a quorum requirement, and that cannot be in the policy manual without authorization from the bylaws.
Okay.
That being said, I will move that out of order. So, Ms. Howell, would you like to continue with that 70% number?
I do not think I have the brain capacity at this time to continue to work this motion out, so I will rescind it.
Okay. All right, we have some other hands up currently. Mr. Aiken?
I think Amber's intentions, surely, Zane, you can figure this out. The idea is that you can't have just some very small subset. And we're trying to establish some threshold of participation by the entire executive committee. And so the question is, how do we establish that threshold? And, whatever the wording is, I mean, avoiding all this quorum stuff and all that, I mean, Zane can do this arithmetic. Whether it's 40 or 63.6 or whatever the number is, to have effectively a quorum, a suitable quorum, perhaps not a full quorum as required by the bylaws, but something that says these guys didn't meet down at Manuals and decide this.
Okay. Given that this is I believe it's a question to the makers of the motion, Mr. Allen and Mr. Flacey, would you guys like to respond to that or have a discussion on it?
Yes, I can quickly respond to that. So the way that you would go about achieving that is if you wanted no motion to be able to pass unless a majority of the entire committee, approved it and voted yes, we could just get rid of this of 40% altogether. So it would read, no motion shall be adopted nor any executive committee vacancy filled by electronic mail ballot unless approved by at least the majority of the full existing executive committee. What that would essentially do is require 12 yes votes on any e-ballot in order for it to pass, which because again, what we can't do is require a certain number of total people to vote on it. But what I think would achieve what people want is if we have a very high threshold of yes votes in order for it to be considered to have passed. Because if you've got 12 yes votes, then even if all 23 people voted, there's no way that it could be defeated if it has 12 yes votes.
Okay. What do you guys want to do? I see several hands up. We can entertain a motion for that 40% to be stricken, or we can let you guys talk to it or against it. And I'll give you guys whatever you guys are looking to speak to or against. Mr. Dolan, Mr. McKinney.
I would move to strike the 40%.
I agree with Danny. I don't think it's unreasonable to expect 12 out of 23 votes to pass something in this body. And it is kind of the responsibility of the chair to make sure that everybody who needs to vote has had an opportunity to vote. And getting 12 out of 23 I think that's reasonable.
All right. See, Mr. Allen, your hand is up.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that the original language of this would effectively mimic what is already required in our meetings. Like if we have 40% of our members show up to one of these regular meetings and a majority of them vote on something, that measure would pass, right? It would be like, 5 members or whatever that number is. That would be a binding resolution. So this isn't anything less than what we already have.
Okay. Sorry, guys. I think I got us off track. It has been moved to strike the 40%. Is there a second for that?
Second. I'd second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to strike the of 40%. We'll now hear debate on that specific point. Mr. Dolan, if you'd like to speak to it, since you were the maker of that motion, and then Mr. Aiken, Mr. Mosley. I guess Mr. Mosley was first, and then Mr. Aiken.
I understand that this does effectively make it a little bit harder to pass something in electronic ballot than in public meeting. I don't think that's a bad thing. These electronic ballots are supposed to be for high priority stuff that must happen between. It is, and yet we do not want such things to be rushed through. We want to make sure that we don't have the complaint of a large number. We don't have complaints from the executive committee that, I didn't see, get the email in my inbox or whatever for the ballot. I think it's very important that we make sure that people have that ability to and incentive to really be attentive between the meetings. I think that if there's also a lot more pressure if you yes, the official quorum for a meeting may be 40% or that meeting doesn't happen, but if people miss meetings repeatedly, they are removed and replaced. We want to make sure that these electronic mail ballots don't slip by. So that's it for me.
Okay. Mr. Mosley, you still have your hand up?
Yes, I'm here. I just really, Colin and Danny have already made the points that I would make. I think it's a big issue to allow any vote made by this body pass on 5 votes alone, much less anything substantive. I mean, I got issues with that, with being able to do that in our regular meetings. But we at least need to prevent it from happening in the electronic voting. And I think removing the 40% or the language 40% is a good idea. I simply do not like that 5 people can carry any vote anywhere, and especially in a vote between meetings. That's all.
Okay. Mr. Aiken?
Yes, I mean, I think on this electronic format, essentially, we always have a quorum. We always have everybody because everybody's out there. And our assumption is, I mean, we have this notion that we send things out and thus we've fulfilled our obligation, that we've communicated with our members, with our staff, with whoever, because we sent a tweet, we've fulfilled our responsibilities. So that must mean that we think there's always a quorum. And so I don't see why it should be reduced. I do like the notion of having something quick and concise. But I do have a question, Zane. At one point you said yes, no. They had to reach this number, but it also had to be a yes. Well, if we have a full quorum, isn't that where we're at here with this thing? I mean, it's not only got to get this number, but it's got to be, you got to get yes votes. Am I misunderstanding?
So, Mr. Chair, I assume I can respond.
Yes, that would be in order.
Okay, so this does go back to the difference between a quorum and a voting threshold. A quorum is a requirement for the total number of people that have to have participated in the vote. We cannot have a quorum in the policy manual because it's not authorized by the bylaws. It would have to be in the bylaws or at least authorized by them. A voting threshold is a requirement on the minimum number of yes votes that a motion needs in order to be considered to have passed. So we can have that in the policy manual. And so that's why it would have to be at least 12 yes votes, not just X number of total votes.
May
Clarification.
I ask a follow-up question?
Yes.
I'm confused about this notion of a quorum. And typically we check the quorum, establish it at the beginning, but I don't think we check the quorum every time we have a vote. And
Quorum is assumed during a meeting. It's a little bit different on an email ballot, but
well, I mean, I get the notion of participating in the vote. I mean, so the fact that the vote went on when you were counted in the quorum, and then now you go get a Bud Light, and so you're not there to vote. Does that mean you participate in the vote or not? And so it is with this thing. We assume everybody is in the quorum because we have decided to send them something. And but they may or may not pick up the thing. It may not have gone through. We may not have done it correctly. So I'm not sure this is exactly like the quorum in a sitting meeting. And there's no debate, as Danny raised. I mean, there's in these meetings we have an opportunity to at least ask a question. That's very much harder in an electronic format.
all right. We'll go to Mr. Allen and then Mr. Dolan again.
Yeah, so there is no quorum between meetings. Like, quorum only applies when we are meeting together as a deliberative assembly. This electronic ballot procedure is specifically for motions between meetings. So quorum is not a concept that makes sense in that format. In fact, Roberts specifically recommends against doing what we're trying to do here, but our bylaws says that we can, so we're trying to make it work. But quorum doesn't make sense in this context.
There we go. Mr. Dolan?
It seems to me that the metaphor, as you said, the idea is that quorum is not in attendance, is not applicable to an in-between meetings kind of thing. But we can be assumed to be virtually present, hypothetically, and as we've said. And so the question is, what happens if so anyone who has not cast a ballot it's not so much like as if they were not present to vote, but as if they had abstained from the vote. And so if we're in a meeting, let's say we're in a meeting and we have full attendance of the executive committee, and a very large number of people simply don't raise their hand for a vote, is 5 people enough to pass a motion? That does not make logical sense to me. So I really think that we need to have a majority participate actively and choose to pass a motion.
As a point of clarification to you, Mr. Dolan, in a meeting, if only, let's say, 10 people vote, the majority of that 10 people, let's say 11, because majorities are tough. If 6 people voted on that and only 11 people voted, the 6 people would carry that motion in Roberts.
Okay.
So that is, it is based on who votes according to Roberts, the number of people who vote, you have to have a majority for a majority of the people who voted, or a 2/3 for a 2/3 vote.
Yeah.
But only of the people who vote.
I still favor a higher threshold for this.
Sure.
For this,
Definitely. Just wanted to be sure we were all clear on the requirements of Roberts. And thank you.
And so at least half the people have to show up. It still has to pass. Am I misreading that? I mean, I thought that's what Zane was saying to start with, that you got to have at least half the people show up, and it still has to pass. I mean,
Yeah, you're saying an approval of a majority of the existing executive committee as it's written. So 12 yeses. And Mr. Placey, if you'd like to speak to that.
Yes. So if the amendment to the motion were adopted, it would not be saying that we need at least 12 people to show up and vote. It would mean that we need at least 12 people to vote yes. If you think that threshold is too high, then we can come up with some percentage between 40% and 100%. But what we're essentially trying to figure out is what is the minimum number of yes votes that we think an e-ballot should require for any motion proposed by an e-ballot to be passed.
Well, I think Danny described it best. I mean, we have to have an opportunity for debate. That's not here. We assume there's a quorum always, simply because this thing is existent. And I can't figure out all these nuances of we're just trying to do something. I mean, I don't quite understand why we need to rush down to 5. I mean, can't we rush up to 12? You know, I mean, 11.
Mr. Placey?
So the reason that I put in 40%, as Brian said earlier, is because that is what we have for regular meetings. And I know many people have explained why we want the requirement to be higher for e-ballots than for regular meetings. But that was why I had initially put in 40% in there. So if people think that, the 40%, only 5 yes votes is too low, but if people believe that having a requirement for 12 yes votes would be too high, then we could, make another amendment to the motion to pick an intermediate threshold.
I don't think 12 is too high.
All right. So if that is, if anyone has any further debate on the amendment to the motion, we can vote on the amendment. Hearing no further debate on that, those in favor of striking of 40% of in this motion, please raise your hands. All right, I see 8 votes in favor of striking of 40%. You can lower your hands. There we go. Those opposed to striking the of 40% on this piece.
I'm not seeing anyone.
I am not seeing anyone either. All right. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. The motion as presented is just specifically this part. Can you scroll up, Zane, because we are actually on the entirety of this motion. Okay. The current motion, as proposed, is to pass the voting procedures and the electronic mail ballot procedures as presented on the screen and as amended by striking the of 40% in the a majority of. The irony is not lost on me, my friend. The irony is not lost. Is there any debate on this motion as it stands? We're back to the main motion. Okay. Hearing no debate, we can take this to a vote. So those in favor of this, are we all clear on what's happening here? Are there questions? Because I want to be sure that we know what we're doing as we do this. Mr. Aiken?
If we had an electronic vote, if we had been doing this by electronic, we wouldn't have had this discussion. And so this notion that only 8 passed this and everybody else abstained, I can only assume because they weren't comfortable with it. And the value of these discussions is terrific, as opposed to saying, oh, this thing's been posted all week. Because we posted it last Thursday, we assume everybody's read it. And I think that's just not valid. We've had a good discussion about this thing, and it took 8 people to pass it. But if we would not have had that discussion, 5 people could have passed it. Anything that comes along after 1/5 vote of the thing up there, whatever the first part says. So I think there's not much irony. I think it validates the fact that electronic votes are trickier than in-person votes.
Okay. Mr. Varnell?
Since it seems like only one part of this is in question or debated, would it make sense to divide this?
No, we're already
Okay, too late.
in voting.
Cool.
Okay. Are you sure about that? We haven't voted specifically on this one.
Well, you had already closed debate and moved on to the voting, even though we hadn't started voting yet.
Okay, I did open it back up for questions because it didn't seem like it was clear. So I think I'm going to say...
I'll request a ruling from the chair.
Yeah, I'm going to say that's in order.
Okay, so I move to divide.
Is there a second?
Sure, second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to divide the question. Would you like this? How do you want this divided? The 2.
I think probably just
2.7.
Yeah, that makes sense. 226 and 227.
Okay, so it has been moved and seconded to divide the question on 2.2.6 and 2.2.7. We will deal with it in order. to do the voting procedures first and then the electronic mail ballot procedures second. Is there any debate on dividing this?
Division is not debatable.
Okay.
Not debatable. Look at that. Thank you, Mr. Placey. I will.
Oh, wait, sorry. I'm looking at the wrong part of my Roberts manual. I was looking at division of the assembly. Sorry.
You're fired. No, I'm kidding. But
I'll second to divide it.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to divide this question, and it is debatable. Correct?
I'm still looking.
Yeah, I'm looking right now.
I guess we should ask if anybody actually has debate on division before we spend a while seeing if it is.
Is there any debate on dividing the question? If so, Mr. Aiken, hold on. Before you do that,
It's not.
Division of a question is not debatable. I just found it.
Not debatable. Okay. Thank you. It's in Roberts 27, 1 through 15?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. It is not debatable. Let's move this to a vote. Those in favor of dividing the question on 2.2.6 and 2.2.7? Okay, I see 13 hands. You can lower your hands. And those opposed? Okay, I see 3 hands. The ayes have it. The motion carries. The question will be divided on 2.2.6 and 2.2.7. So we'll move to 2.2.6 first. Is there any debate on 2.2.6 voting procedures? Okay. So the motion is, Mr. Aiken?
Are these steps that we're going through now, are these essentially a roll call? I mean, are we recording these votes and maintaining them?
We're dividing the question up.
No, I've got a question about the process.
Yes, that's what we just did is we divided that vote or divided the motion into 2 separate parts.
And are we not discussing now 2.2.6?
We are now discussing 2.2.6
Right.
and 2.2.7 separately as 2 separate motions.
Is this thing we're doing a roll call?
It is not currently.
Well, I mean, this electronic thing, all these hand raises, I mean, are we not raising our hands? I mean, I guess I don't understand what we're doing here. Do I have to have my camera on so you can tell I'm raising my hand, or are we doing it by virtue of this process we're going through?
You can technically call this the equivalent of a rising counted vote because it is just hand raising. So you can see who voted on the screen. A roll call vote would require an actual roll call with a vote given for each person.
So we don't record these votes that we take here? I mean, you don't know who voted yes and who voted no?
We record them as pass or fail per Robert's rules.
Well, you mentioned this was technically. We are certainly technically. So, I hate to bog down on these precedents of these words here, but how would it be different if we did this from what it is we've been doing? So the votes that we cast are not being recorded, even though that seemed like a pretty easy thing to do. How's it different?
How is it different from?
What we're doing now with these votes? When we raise our hand, nobody knows we raised our hand. Tomorrow, nobody will know that.
Right. I guess I don't understand the question.
Well, I guess I don't understand what this motion is. I mean, I would think that we are having a roll call vote by virtue of raising our hands, or not. Is that not what's happening here with this machine?
Yeah, I mean, you can see who voted for what piece.
But we don't have the ability to record it.
This is recorded. This meeting is recorded.
But the votes I'm talking about. I'm not talking about.
We don't currently record the votes as they go.
Is that an option on one of our setups?
If you want to call for that, we just voted in a procedure that 1/5 of the body can vote for a roll call vote, or can call for a roll call vote.
Why wouldn't we always do it? I mean, is it really just checking a box and say, keep track of these votes?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
A roll call vote would require me as the secretary to read through the list of all 23 names and personally call on everyone, and then they would say their vote out loud. Whereas the method of voting that we do by the hand raises, which is equivalent essentially to the default way of voting under Roberts, is we record pass fail, but not who voted what.
Okay, thank you.
Very welcome. All right, the motion is, or the question is on 2.2.6, voting procedures. And the motion is that voting conducted during regular and special called meetings of the Executive Committee held by teleconference shall be by a show of hands unless otherwise specified or chosen by committee members in accordance with the LPGA bylaws and the policy manual. A roll call shall be held on a question if it is so requested by a 1/5 vote of the committee members present. We have a couple hands raised. Mr. Allen?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify so everyone knows what's going on here. This first part where it's talking about be by a show of hands unless otherwise specified, that's how we've been doing things. But our individual votes are not recorded in the minutes when we do that. All that is recorded is whether it passes or fails. This second part, a roll call shall be held, is allowing for the option that our individual votes will be recorded in the minutes for the members to see. So they don't have to be trying to find some recording which may or may not be there. They can see it in the minutes themselves.
All right, Mr. Boykin?
Hey, this is Scott. I just wanted to, the description that Zane gave for a roll call vote is correct. The reason we don't do it for everything is the meetings would take twice as long. And for most of the things that we vote on, it's just not critical that we know how each individual member voted because they're not that important. So many of them are procedural matters. But if there is something it's where we think, or 1/5 of the members think it's really critical that everybody know how everybody voted on it, then they can request that. And that's what this 2.2.6 provides for.
Perfect. Mr. Mosley, I believe you were first, and then Mr. Barker.
Yeah, I just wanted to add my little bit to help provide some clarity here. Both Scott and Brian did a really good job of doing that, but you might want to consider going forward of, rather than saying raise your hand, call it raise your digital hand, so we can be clear that that's what we're talking about and not what Jack mentioned. You're just on camera and you raise your hand. And Also, you need to make the distinction between somebody recording this screen, because I do that and record all these votes, and I have my own personal record of everybody and how they voted, but that's distinct from what Zane would put in the minutes. So Zane, if it's not a roll call vote, Zane would simply put pass fail in the minutes, and he's already said that. I'm just repeating it for the sake of clarity. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Mosley. Mr. Barker, you have your hand up. Is it still up?
Yeah, well, I think it's already been addressed, but it seems to me that this is just if there's a serious issue of 1/5 of the people think we should go to a roll call instead of a hands up, that we have the option to do that. If 1/5 of the committee present says that they want to do a roll call, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Is there any further debate? Hearing none. Those in favor of passing this voting procedure into our policy manual as written on the screen, please raise your hands using the raise your hand button. All right, I see lots in favor. I see 17, 18 in favor. You can lower your hands. And those opposed. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. We will move now to 2.2.7, electronic mail ballot procedures. And this is where our debate lies. If is there any debate on 2.2.7 as it stands? I guess you'd say as amended. Are you ready for the question? All right, those in favor of passing this and putting it into our policy manual, or amending the policy manual as shown below in bold, please indicate so by clicking the raise your hand button. All right. To 17. Those opposed, sorry, everybody can lower there. All right, those opposed. All right, the ayes have it. The motion carries. The policy manual will be amended with the language as shown on the screen. Okay. And I will take back the screen. All right, everybody can see that. So we are moving to the chair's report, and I'll give that just by voice. The past month has just been a settling in phase. I've spoken with several of the committee chairs, the vice chair, the executive director. Basically, we've talked through some goals, some expectations, and some ideas for kind of where we want to go. Obviously, a lot of communication has gone back and forth with our convention chair, Mr. Brumbelow. It has been a frenzy of activity. but it seems like we are really making some good progress on getting things moving. I'm excited for some of the fundraising, membership, and lobbying efforts, I guess you can call that, at the local level that we have going on in our party. So we are really on the move, and there are a few committee members or committee chairs who are on the call who might want to speak to those things. So if you do, please let me know. I know I received a fundraising report from Mr. Aiken. So if you want to present that, please let me know. And then Mr. Dolan, I have some things that we talked about, but I wanted to give you that opportunity as well to present if you'd like. Mr. Aiken, go ahead.
The only thing I'd ask people to look at the section where Zane has posted that, because I'm proposing that we change the due structure. And we've got some very specific fundraising goals that Jared has to achieve very specific things. And they're sort of summarized there. But I think this committee should consider, I mean, Jared decided what he wants to try to do. And now the committee, I would suggest, needs to consider my suggestion that we change the due structure. We've not increased the requirement for lifetime membership in 40 years, 35, pick a number. And so I'm going to put that forward whenever it's the appropriate time. I mean, I can't keep up with when I'm supposed to say what. So whenever the time gets around to doing that, I'm going to propose that. So I'd like for you to consider it.
I'll tell you what, let's put that after the treasurer report.
Well, we can put it for another week. You know, we can put it for another month if you want to. I'm just saying people need to consider it. Or we can discuss it now, but you know, whatever you want to do about that.
Yeah, I think if you want to bring it forward, now is as good a time as any to bring it forward. We'll just bring it up after the treasurer's report once we get to the officer's report.
That's fine.
And then we'll come back to it,
Yeah.
just to put it in the right order of the agenda.
Okay.
All right. So that's my report. If there are any questions, feel free. Now is your opportunity. All right. Hearing none, we'll go to the vice chair's report. Mr. Varnell, if you have anything.
All I had is in the communications report, and it's basically that, you know, there's some metrics in there you guys can take a look at. But other than that, sent 2 press releases this last month. Neither of them were picked up except by, you know, myself writing it up on my news site, which isn't as impressive. But there was a press release on the campaign finance ethics committee ruling or decision or whatever, where basically we can, as a party, raise as much money as we want, and as candidates raise money both during the primary season and the general election season. And, you know, that's pretty boring, so it didn't get picked up, although it's good for us. And then the Cop City resolution did very well on social media, but still didn't get picked up by legacy media. And then I imagine that I will send another about this Cop City letter. But so if anybody has any cool news or anything like that, please reach out to me and I'll get press releases typed up and sent out. Sorry, I had one more. Oh, whatever. That's it for now, I guess. So come to me with anything like that, news, you know, let's do press release, blog posts, whatever. Just, I need topics.
And I can vouch that he will make a great write-up. He's written some really good stuff. If you haven't found libertytwist.com, give it some traffic.
I remember the other thing. I might have already forgot it. Yep, I did. I already forgot it. Sorry.
Back to you. We can circle back. Just ping us a message on here or something. All right, moving to the executive director's report. might have lost Elizabeth.
While we wait, I do remember now, and I wrote it down so I can't forget. Let me know if you guys see any opportunities to respond with like a letter to the editor or an op-ed or anything like that. If there are any good issues that's in print that we can respond to, let me know, and I will write something or I'll ghostwrite it for you and hopefully get that put in the newspaper.
Perfect. All right, we can circle back and see if I know I saw Elizabeth on the call earlier. Oh, there she is. Elizabeth, you there? We'll circle back. We will go to a secretary's report. Mr. Clayton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We did have the one e-ballot from last month. Mr. McKinney's motion to release the special committee report to the Libertarian Party of Georgia HQ Base Camp Group. The motion was lost by a vote of 5 in favor and 8 against, and I will be including the details in an appendix to the minutes of this meeting. I will also bring it to the attention of the body since it came up during debate of the motion. There was some discussion of, recording counts. So even if we did not want to go through the entire process of a roll call vote, if the body would like more detail than just whether a motion was adopted or lost, you are able to move to make it a counted vote, which would make the tally of votes for and against go into the minutes, but I would not call on each individual person. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And thank you.
Okay, I think my microphone's working now. Sorry.
He is back. Yes, we can move back to the executive director's report.
Okay, so we had a kickoff meeting last month for the Banish Big Brother project. We also had some members in Forsyth County that appeared at their local county commission meeting to object to some of the digital surveillance that's taking place there. And they also have brought in some additional members from outside the Libertarian Party to build that working group. I did a podcast for the Free Georgia podcast today on this topic, and I am giving a presentation on the 17th in Gwinnett County. And so I encourage all of you in the Atlanta area, if you're available on the 17th to attend, it's going to be at St. Michael Independent Old Catholic Church in Loganville. And I will update that. I just got that address right before the meeting, so I haven't updated it on the website, but I will do that soon. And since this is kind of also an effort to, like we had talked about with different affiliates visiting each other's affiliate meetings, this would be a good opportunity to do that. And we are also going to have a pub crawl in Savannah, which will bring attention to the project there. More information on that will be coming out shortly. It will probably be in the early fall, but a date hasn't been determined yet. We have a list together of the representatives that we are going to lobby for the legal tender project. And I know that some of you are waiting on the new brochures. I have been trying to work with Daniel McGee to get these through the store because that's going to be the best way to fulfill those orders. But he was out of town on an extended vacation, and I just haven't been able to nail anything down yet. But I am doing my best, and hopefully those will be available in short order. And that is all I have.
As a point of clarification, those brochures, you're going to put those on the store and people can order just in bulk and then we fulfill those on our end?
Right. Basically, we're exploring, is this the best way that affiliates can order a pack of brochures for their affiliate? And it's all going to depend on the price that we can get. But it's like if we get a bunch of them printed up from a printer, then we have to worry about, okay, who's going to ship these out and fulfilling it. This would be the easiest way to get it done, but it's just going to depend on who he can get lined up and the price and so forth. So yeah, we're ironing all that out, and it's taking some time. I do, if somebody really wants brochures and we don't have printed ones ready yet, I do have the file available that I can share if you just want to get a few of your own printed, or, that way you won't be like waiting, if you need them immediately.
Right. We had talked with Daniel about brochures and other giveaway refillable, things that you'd want to restock, stock up on from time to time. And we'd also talked about options for starter things that some affiliates might want, such as convenient banners and other things to make a table look nice. More long-term, decorations that you wouldn't have to buy over and over again. So we've got a few things that we're trying to put together, but we've got to meet again, see what he's come up with.
Thank you.
Hey, this is Scott. I just wanted to say we're really grateful to Elizabeth for coming to Gwinnett to see us, and I hope other people can come too. We would love to have you. So, but it's the address is in Loganville, and Elizabeth is going to publish it where everybody can see it. I'll put it in the chat box too.
That's July 17th, next Monday. And Mr. Bonnell, you had your hand up.
Yeah. Question for Elizabeth is, are they going to be fulfilled by us or Daniel?
That's what we're trying to iron out. Ideally,
Okay.
they should be, if they should be fulfilled by Daniel, that would be the most convenient way to do it. So if the price is outrageous, then we might have to revisit that. So
Yeah.
those are just things that we just don't have ironed out yet. And
Okay.
ideally, we want them as part of an affiliate kit when affiliate first starts. That's what Danny was referring to. We're trying to put a kit together, but still you're going to need to replenish your brochures. And I know that there's some people that want brochures now, like for things that are going on like next weekend, and that they don't want to wait. So in that case, I can share the file if that makes things easier.
Got it.
You can be reached through email, elizabeth.gallimore@lpgeorgia.com, and Basecamp, correct?
That is correct.
Perfect. All right. So if any of you are in affiliates or are affiliate leaders and you need some of that information, it is available for you. Please avail yourselves of that. We got those professionally done, so we want to take advantage of it. All right. Anything else? Any other questions? Okay, if not, we will move to our treasurer's report. Mr. Moldenhauer?
Thank you, Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay, so should I share my screen? Go through some, let's see, go through some numbers. Just brief overview, and I'm close to getting used to all the software, so I appreciate everybody's patience. We have May ironed out. We have the revenue from June ironed out. I'm still chasing down the last bits of expenses from June, but in the last 3 months, small uptick in membership, but overall lower than what was set in the 2023 budget. The donations have decreased in the last month. The last expenses that I still need to chase, most of them are pretty rare and can be predicted. So overall operating at around $600 loss, nothing completely out of the ordinary. And then in other news, we have probably $600 in May, and then around 578 in May, probably around 600 in June. Both nothing out of the ordinary. And then in other news, at our Truist Bank, we opened a money market account and moved a significant amount of our money from our regular checking account into there so that we can have a better interest rate. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, what was the amount on that money market account?
15,000.
15,000, which lines up with the amount in the policy manual for the reserve.
Correct.
Okay.
And that is at a 2% interest in comparison to leaving it at a checking account at a 0.01% interest.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. So I did say we would circle back to, if the body will allow it, the fundraising chair and the membership chair, if you guys want to present anything. And then, Mr. Aiken, you have something you'd like to bring before the body. And Mr. Dolan, if you'd like to go after that. If not, it's okay. I just wanted to give you that opportunity. But
Well, I posted a brief report that Zane, I sent it to Zane. I guess he posted it, so it's out there somewhere. And but I think there's a number of specific initiatives that are being described as ways to raise money. The first one being membership, and so we'll both increase the count, the membership count, and I'm proposing that we increase the level, the cost of being a member, for both the regular member and a life member, and that the life members be further distinguished to people who are life members and actually contributing continuously, or they just came to be a life member and we're counting them. So I don't have the number exactly, but I'm saying we've got somewhere around 380 members we've been reporting for a while, but I think 85 of them are lifetime members. And I'm not sure that 85 of them are contributing anything on an ongoing basis. I mean, each and every one is much appreciated, of course, and we have an obligation to continue to recognize them as lifetime members. But a lifetime member that's continuing to give money is different than a lifetime member that gave money in 1986. Right. And so whatever goes into making all that happen so that we are in compliance with whatever it is we have to be in compliance with, I'd like for folks to consider doing that. And we also anticipate fundraising at the convention. I propose we make some investments in affiliates, that we set up a strategy for affiliates to raise money. We help them raise money by doing things that we might be able to do. And we do it on a revenue sharing basis, that if there's a profit and we've contributed to it, that we somehow get part of that profit and they get the rest of it. There's special events under discussion, having speakers periodically through the years that might be able to draw enough attendance so we'd be able to raise money there. The Great Create type thing, whatever that is. I mean, I think it was an exciting thing, and I don't know how you'd actually turn it into a fundraiser, but we should. And also there's discussion of what I call a high dollar gala, where people pay, we have $1,000 tables, whatever, that sort of thing, and try to raise money there. targeted projects where people have particular interest, that we go and look for people who will make specific contributions to specific projects. And then there's the Gold Dome 24s out there that that's on the list of things that we could do as well. So if anybody got any questions about, really my interest is in how can we shape the dues structure so it's more appropriate today than it was 20 years ago.
Mr. Allen?
Yeah. Have you done any research on how many members would likely not renew or join if we raised it by this much? And also, secondly, do you know how much each dues paying member tends to donate on average throughout the course of a year?
My first reaction to your first question is it almost doesn't make any difference. We're so pathetic that if every single person quit, we'd still be 1,700 short of where we ought to be. Our membership was at 2,000 one time in Georgia. So I know that nothing's happened in the last 50 years. But during that period of time, we did have 2,000 members at one period of time. So I think we have to reshape our entire view of what it is we're trying to do. And that we need to get a lot of members. And right now, my impression is that despite some really good efforts by a number of people, we're not getting members. And if we give it away, I mean, if we lose people that are $8 a month, you know, that's not necessarily the end of the earth. I mean, we're not spending any money to contact them, and they're not bringing any money in the door. And we've created this mentality of, oh, poor pitiful pearl, us, that we've got to step beyond that. So to your first question, it almost doesn't make any difference. And so no, I've not done any careful analysis of how many ways you can divide $75. The objective now is to reach $4,000 a month. That by the end of the year, that we have a thing in place that will yield $4,000 a month. And if we do that, that'll be enough to meet Jared's initial goals, specific things that he wants to achieve. And then beyond that, we can do other things. So no, I've not done any careful analysis of the members except to know that we are 1,600 short of our prior high point. And that's not acceptable. And neither is the money we're charging people.
The second question, Brian, do you remember what it was?
Oh, yeah, it was beyond just paying dues, how much does the average member donate throughout the course of a year?
Okay. Yeah, that might be a question for our treasurer, but I don't know that we have a quick spreadsheet pulled up for it.
Well, that ought to be easy to calculate. How much money do we have in a year? $15,000, $20,000? How many people do we have? 400? 400 goes into 20,000. How many times? You know, I mean, those questions. I mean, those are not. We're not addressing the real thing we need to heal ourselves and grow. I mean, our entire budget divided by our entire membership. How much might it be? It's just simply not enough.
All right. Any other questions on that?
Zach raised the point, and I agree with him. You know, we'd certainly grandfather. I mean, I'm not talking about anybody losing anything. You know, libertarians are all about fulfilling our obligations unless it comes to a municipal bond. And so we should do that. We should grandfather people in and work our way through this. But we're starting so very, very meagerly. We just have to do better.
Okay. Any other questions on that, Mr. Gold?
Yeah, just membership Last I counted this earlier today was around 300. It has been on a struggle for a while. When I do reach people in calls of who haven't renewed, it is a fairly common answer. Oh, I can't afford it right now. You know, and you know, we know that economics is not a stagnant thing. That you know, that supply and demand happens. You raise a price and it cuts demand, or at least quantity purchased. The yeah, it will have a. We need to grow our membership, and yes, we need to bring in more money. So, I mean, $100 at from $30 to $100 is a jump, is a significant jump, and it's going to scare people away if we can't, you know, if there isn't. If people are going to ask the question, okay, what am I getting? Not just what is the party getting, but what am I getting for $100? So,
Man, what a point.
Let me address something that Danny said there. I mean, he's exactly right. People have to see that they're getting some value.
Mm-hmm.
My approach to the fundraising, when we approach people for getting money, they're investing in the Libertarian Party of Georgia, who is protecting their freedoms now and tomorrow and forever. This is they're investing in their future freedoms, and we are the trustees of that investment. And so we have a responsibility to do something for them today, and do something for them a year from now, and do something for their grandkids 35 years from now. And so our responsibilities are enormous. And the amount of money that we're talking about, I mean, $100 is, Zane might have to help me out with this. Is that $8 a month? I mean, I'm not, I mean, I don't go to Starbucks, but I bet a cup of coffee at Starbucks costs $8 time you put an 11% sales tax on it. So we're not out of bounds. If people have confidence in what we're doing, they will do it. They will do it. They will invest in us, in helping them protect their freedoms. That's our mission. All this other stuff is just folderol. And people will give much larger dollars than that. And if need be, I'll bet we can have a scholarship program or something. I don't have the right word there. You know, if it's somebody who wants to be a libertarian so much, and they only would if they only had $7 more, I bet we can help them there. But I think most people will rise up and say, yes, I do want to invest in the protection of my freedom and the protection of the freedom of my grandkids. People will do that without regard to the economy. I mean, we're talking $8 a month, are we not? Am I doing that right?
More or less. Mr. Boykin?
I had a couple of comments. One is the $100 is probably not the market price for joining a political party. The Republicans want 40. I just looked. I tried to see what the Democrats in Georgia want, and they apparently don't want you to join because they don't tell you. But, you know, going from $30 to $100 is a big jump, especially in an economy where people's real wages are declining due to inflation. And I would add too, you know, if we want to be a really representative political party, we want to include, you know, blue collar and, you know, working people and so forth. A jump that big is gonna drive them off. So I would not be in favor of a jump like that.
Okay. So we'll find some that'll do that, and we'll find some others that'll do less.
Yeah. Okay. Tell you what, are there any other questions? Okay. With that proposal, Mr. Aiken, would you mind bringing that back as a motion, that number or any number, in the next meeting, just so we can consider it, talk through it, and either vote it up or kill it? We do have two people that are asking. We'll go with Mr. Moldenhauer first, and then Mr. Boykin.
Thank you. Yes. I do like the idea of that momentum and just generally the direction of the idea. So feel free to ask me about any statistics, and then we can sort of plan out what we could see as different models and what type of numbers it would take to get certain goals.
All right. Sounds like we have a financial analyst willing to do some models for our fundraising. Look at that. And our membership. Mr. Boykin?
This is just an idea, but a lot of organizations have different levels of membership. So we could have while y'all are working on this and thinking about it, you could have a basic membership, that's something like what we have now, but then, you could have a, whatever you want to call it, premium membership or silver and gold membership, where like I could donate more money, and I'd be happy to do that, but I just don't want other people to quit because they can't afford it. So, and you might get an extra whatever sticker or pin or something if you donate more or have a higher level membership. I'm just throwing that out there while y'all are thinking about it, because I understand the need to raise more money. I just don't want to run people off.
Okay, Mr. Dolan?
Yeah, a number. I have looked at other states' membership programs, and there are some other states that do have, as you said, multiple layers of membership program, a basic like economy package, and then other packages which might include sending swag, might include extra, events at monthly get-togethers or invitation only events at convention. Those are options that some other states offer. Also, printed newsletters or membership cards, and we've glanced at those. Or I've glanced at those and talked with Elizabeth about something. I can share some of what other states do. I will mention that actually implementing that is somewhat complicated for us by the fact that we do have separate monthly and document to share and show on Basecamp, so that people can just have that for food of thought.
I like that. And maybe we can take that offline, me, you, Danny, and Jack, and we can talk through some of the opportunities for that, and maybe we can come back with something that can be presented with a little more meat on the bones, and see, what we want to do. Because I think this does cross over two separate committees. I think it'd be good for us to get those on the same page. So maybe that's the better way to do it. Let's do that, and then we'll come back to the body with something, hopefully in the next meeting, if not the one after that. Okay, are there any other questions? Things that are on people's minds? Okay. We'll move to you, Mr. Dolan. Do you have anything further? I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot. I know I asked you before the meeting.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add on membership that we haven't discussed.
Okay, perfect. All right. With that being said, we have reached the end of the business. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
All right, it has been moved
Second.
and seconded that we adjourn. Those in favor of adjourning? And those opposed? Just check. The ayes have it. We are adjourned.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us for a somewhat long meeting.
Please come to Loganville next Monday.
Please do.